Hello YouTube, this is Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review. Now this will be my first Australian beer review. This is the Cooper's Brewery Original Pale Ale. Now this is another brewery that has quite an interesting history behind it. They were founded in 1862 by Thomas Cooper, who was originally from England. Yorkshire I believe it was, but today they're the largest Australian-owned brewery, and they're also the world's premier producer of home brewing equipment, so you should definitely take a look at the kits and things that they produce. You can get these quite easily in specialist beer shops. But the company are still primarily, after 150 years of being in business right enough, they are primarily still owned by the extended Cooper family. Now the brewery is located in Adelaide, which is the capital city of southern Australia. The original brewery was in the Norwood suburb from 1862 to 1861, when the brewery moved into the Leabrook suburb. Now Thomas Cooper died in 1897, and at this stage he passed the brewery into the hands of his four eldest sons. And then later in 1923 the brewery became an incorporated company with the creation of shares. This was due to the fact that every time a partner in the company retired or died or whatever, they had to basically rewrite the whole paperwork behind the company, and it became a very, very tedious process, so they created shares, and this appeared to solve the problem. Now the next point of note is in 1962, when Coopers sold a 25% shareholding to the South Australian Brewing Company. Now they were the only other remaining brewery in the city of Adelaide, and as a means to prevent takeover they sold them this part of the share, and also received a 2.5% share in the South Australian Brewing Company itself. Now 1968 saw the introduction of the Gold Crown Lager, despite reluctance from the Coopers board about this. There was apparently a bit of a falling interest in the ales, and Coopers was traditionally an ale brewing company, so they introduced this gold lager and it seemed to benefit the company quite well. But in 1987, in celebration of the brewery's 125th anniversary, they commissioned a book by Alison Porter, which was titled Jolly Good Ale and Old: The History of Cooper's Brewery 1862 to 1987. So if you're interested more in the history of this brewery, you can take a look at that. But in 1993, the South Australian Brewing Company that I mentioned earlier, who owned the 25% share in the company, were bought over by the Trans-Tasmanian company Lion Nathan. Now following this, Cooper's Brewery reacquired the 25% stake that South Australian had in the company from Lion Nathan, and this meant that once again the brewery was solely owned by the Cooper family. In 2001, the brewery moved to their new large Regency Park brewing facility, and Lion Nathan incidentally re-attempted to take over the company in 2005, and this was vigorously opposed by the shareholders, and there was also legal moves to reduce third-tier purchasing rights which were involved in the takeover between Lion Brewery and the South Australian Brewing Company, and this saved Coopers as an independent company basically. Now in 2011 they became the only wholly Australian brewery after SAB Miller brought out Foster's, and Lion Nathan had previously been bought by Kirin Brewery from Japan in 2009, so Coopers are the only wholly Australian owned brewery today. Now in 2012, as part of celebration of the 150th anniversary, they introduced the Celebration Ale, which I've not been able to find, hopefully I can find that, and they also introduced special labels to all their different beer bottles. As you can see from this one, it mentions up here the 150th anniversary of the brewery, so that's very nice. But their other beers include the Sparkling Ale, which is an English style golden ale, rail ale sort of thing. This one has a red label. There is also a dark ale which has a brown label. There's an extra stout that has a yellow label, all in the same style. There's extra strong vintage ale, which is an English strong ale, real ale they sometimes call it. There's a premium lager, a 62 pilsner, a premium light, which is a 2.9% lager, and anything in Australia incidentally that is under 3% is termed as light in the for commercial purposes. There's one called Clear, which is a low carb beer. There is Birrell, which is non-alcoholic, and then there's Dr. Tim's Traditional Ale, which is a canned pale ale. Now I have a bottle of the Sparkling Ale, so I'll review that for you at a later date, but I'll see if I can get a hold of those other ones that I've just listed here. But there have been other beers that have been produced by this brewery also, but these have gone out of commission for several reasons, you know, unpopularity and stuff like that. But in Australia itself, they also distribute Carlsberg, Kronenberg, Mythos, which is a beer I've reviewed, so you can check that video out as well, and also Sapporo. But anyway, let's get on to the tasting of this beer. I've gone through the history and rambled on a little bit just now. Oh, just before I open it up, I'll just let you have a little closer look at the the bottle here. On the back actually it says Cooper's ales and stout are brewed using the centuries old top fermentation method and natural bottle conditioning, resulting in a characteristic fine sediment forming on the base of the bottle. This sediment is completely natural and can be gently mixed before drinking or poured carefully, leaving the sediment in the bottle. So yeah, you can just have a little look at the bottle there. I'll just bring up the camera so I can check you're seeing it. As you can see, this is a special bottle cap that's on this one actually, the 150th anniversary version, so I'll be keeping this bottle cap. But yeah, nothing really particularly special about the designs on this bottle, as there is the case with some beers, but I'll get it open and we can have a little taste of this guy. There we are, sorted. Oh, I'm getting a little bit of bubbles. Sort this out, but let's get them poured. Okay, there we are. As you can see, the beer is quite hazy. I can see just in this last little bit that's kind of coming out, there is a bit of sediment in it. But as you can see, it's a nice kind of light golden colour. The head on this one isn't really foamy, it's a more bubbly head. There's actually quite a lot of carbonation visible in this, even though it's quite hazy, I would say. This one, incidentally, is a 4.5% pale ale. I forgot to say that. But this one has, as you can see, this is the green label beer. It has year-round availability. Just give it a smell. I'm kind of getting sort of light malts and graininess from this one. It actually smells kind of quite bready as well. I read about the Cooper's beers, incidentally, that they use bready yeasts. So this is probably where the bready smell's coming from. Yeah. As you can see, the head's dissipated quite quickly on this. It's leaving a little bit of a foamy residue. But yeah, I can smell kind of light malts, some graininess, a little bit of quite a bit of bready element to this actually. There's some kind of maybe some flowery hoppiness. There's a little sort of kind of citrus element in the background there, probably kind of fruity hops maybe. But anyway, let's give it a taste. Yeah, it's a very, definitely can taste the breadiness in this. That's the first thing that comes. But yeah, I'm kind of getting some sweet malts. This is actually a very kind of bready beer. That would be like I say from the bready yeast that's characteristic of Cooper's beers. It's actually quite a nice pale ale. It's quite unique in that sense. I've never had a pale ale that's actually quite bready. But yeah, in the flavour, kind of getting the sweet malts. The predominant thing that's coming to me is the breadiness from the yeast. I'm also getting some grains in this. There is a little bit on the tongue. You do get that little bit of sweetness from the kind of sweet hops that I talked about with the aroma. On the mouth, it's surprisingly light actually for being quite a hazy beer. I would have expected it to be more kind of mid-bodied a little bit. On the tongue there's actually a fair bit of carbonation. This one's actually quite zippy, I would say. The finish is kind of mildly bitter. You do get that sort of residual breadiness to it. I'm going to be interested to see what the Cooper Sparkling Ale is, and I also have another Australian beer, Crown Lager, that I'll review at a later date, and there's some other ones I want to try and get a hold of as well, so I will do some more Australian beer reviews. This beer itself, overall, it's fairly nice. I'm surprised at how light it is for a pale ale. Usually, in my experience, more pale ales are more medium bodied. This is unique in the sense because of the bready malts, so I would say if you've not tried this before, definitely give it a go. But thanks again for watching my beer reviews. I'd say this is a nice beer for drinking in hot weather. You can see why it's Australian. The Australian beers tend to be quite light in my experience, just obviously because of the hot weather and things. That's the sort of style that they'll drink down there. But anyway, thanks again for watching my beer reviews. I will be back with another Australian beer review in the near future. I've got 2 bottles currently that I will review at a later date. Australians, incidentally, please suggest craft breweries for me to look at from Australia, and indeed other normal breweries. Just please comment with your own favourite beers, and yeah, but thanks for watching. I'll be back with another beer review in the meantime, and please like, subscribe and share the videos. Thanks again for watching, and I shall see you soon. Cheers.